Hello, and welcome to this recorded panel discussion about repair order disclaimers and warranties, presented by the Auto Service Councils of California. My name is Lee Chesnan, 2024 President of ASCCA. Disclaimers, sometimes called backer language because they usually appear on the backside of the invoice, are an important feature of the repair order. Once created, this language is often ignored by many shop owners. When properly written, disclaimers help define the customer's expectations and can make your life easier if you have to defend yourself in a dispute. Bringing their knowledge and experience tonight to help us make sense of this critical area are Pat DeRay, Chief of the California Bureau of Auto Repair, Bill Thomas, Deputy Chief of BAR Field Operations and Enforcement Division, Jack Molodanoff, ASCCA Legislative Analyst and Advocate, and Dennis Montalbano, past Council President and experienced arbitrator. Along with our facilitator for this discussion, Dave Kusa, Chair of the Council's Government Affairs Committee, and our producers, past Council President Rocky Kamenian and ASCCA Executive Director Gloria Peterson. This discussion was initiated as a response to several questions posed by Council members. Having discussions like this, bringing in such a variety of experts, is a special benefit of ASCCA membership. To find out more about disclaimers and warranties, or about the Council, please go to ascca.com or check out the links at the end of this presentation. Thank you for watching. Let's get started.
Well, welcome, everyone. My name is Rocky Kamenian. I'm a past president of ASCCA. We are all here to have a conversation regarding warranties and disclaimers. Mostly disclaimers than warranties, probably, but it's all going to be mixed together, and it's great information for the industry, great information for auto repair shops, especially ASCCA members. We want to keep everybody informed. Real fast introductions, please, starting with Mr. Chesnan.
My name is Lee Chesnan. I am 2024 State President, Auto Service Councils of California, and I'm glad to be here and part of this discussion.
Bill Thomas, Deputy Chief of the Field Operations and Enforcement Division for the Bureau of Automotive Repair.
And good evening, Pat DeRay, Chief of the Bureau of Automotive Repair.
My name is Dennis Montalbano. I am past ASCCA President 2011-2016, and I've been an arbitrator for the State of California Department of Consumer Affairs lemon law cases for the manufacturer's warranty since 1999. So going on 25 years, and happy to be here tonight. Hopefully we can get some good stuff done.
I'm Jack Molodanoff. I'm the Automotive Service Council's lobbyist and also attorney. Yes, I also represent other trade associations, and I've also been a small claims judge pro tem for here in Sacramento County. Wow. No longer doing that, but that was in my past life.
Well, yeah, experience is great.
Dave Kusa, past ASCCA President, current Chair of Government Affairs Committee, shop owner in Campbell, and temporary bar chief at BAG meetings for the dozen times. Pat knows what I'm talking about. And I want to mention, I think it's a good point to mention here that one of our core and great values as a member is some time with half hour every 30 minutes every month with Jack Molodanoff, our representative in Sacramento and lawyer. And after we have this conversation on this speaker panel, those that might have some questions for specific legal things would reach out to Jack as a member. So just a great opportunity to do that. And also, let's not forget Gloria.
Yeah, I'm Gloria Peterson, Executive Director of ASCCA.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would like to have David Kusa start the conversation with what we need to go forward with, please.
Thanks, Rocky. So this conversation started with some questions on Team Talk about some disclaimers and warranties and what that might look like. And there was good conversation amongst we shop owners, but never any real good clarity on are we within regulation? Is some legal aspects? What happens when there is a question or a customer has a problem with our warranty or our disclaimers? Dennis sees a lot of that. Jack has got a lot of questions. I know that BAR, Bill said there's been a number of shop warranty type issues that bars had to deal with vehicle owners. So one of the questions that is mine specifically, but also was asked by one of our members. So in the current digital age, many of our point of sale systems are now electronic, and we email everything. We don't print anything. So historically, I've always had my warranty was printed on the back of my invoice, as Jack calls it, backer language. So I hardly ever print anything anymore. And in my digital point of sale system, it would be pretty arduous to, have the warranty be printed along or emailed along with everything. So what I did is I had a small, at the bottom of my invoice, and others that have done the same, that says, here's our standard warranty. For details, visit this website, and I have my complete warranty as a page on my website. So from Bureau's point of view, Jack's point of view, Dennis's point of view, is that good? Are we in trouble with that? So let's start the conversation with that.
I can help you with the warranty issue, Dave. Warranties, as the Bureau understands, there are two kinds of warranties. There's a written explicit warranty, and then there's an implied warranty. And the implied warranty can get people in trouble, because by not stating their warranty, then there becomes an implied warranty, and the implied warranty is kind of open to any kind of interpretation by the bar and by the customer and by the small claims judge if it gets that far. So the express written warranty spells out the terms of the length of time, the parts, labor, the nuts and bolts of it, and puts it all pretty much in front of you. I don't think we do a very good job on extended I think we do more implied warranty than we do explicit warranty. And I'd like to see us clean some of that up in tonight's process.
Let me just comment. And I'm curious what BAR is going to say, but I know that under the current regulations, which is under the Title 16 3376, it does say that all guarantees shall be in writing, and legible copy thereof shall be delivered to the customer with the invoice itemizing the parts, components, and labor represented to be covered by such guarantee. And it goes on further about the guarantee, but I guess the question then becomes, does that satisfy the BAR when Dave, you mentioned you have it on your invoice, but it's a link, right? Does that satisfy delivered? And, I guess I'm going to kick it over to Bill and see if he believes it's got to be given digitally, or does, clicking that button to go to the website, does that satisfy? Would that satisfy the Automotive Repair Act?
Yeah, you're talking about a two-step process, essentially, which is you get the invoice, and then you got to, at some point after you've left the shop, presumably you've got to click on this website, and I guess you're not necessarily certain that the customer is ever going to go and look at that warranty. So that's my first concern. There's some additional concerns I think Bill and I have discussed that I'll just let him put it in his words because he's worked in the industry. But yeah, that would be my first concern, is when I think of something being delivered, I think you get the invoice and you get the warranty, that kind of you're reading at the same time, and you're marrying those two documents, or it all as one document. And here I don't get that picture, that feel for when you have to step away from the automotive repair transaction and I'm going home I got to pick up the kids from school. I got to make dinner tonight. And I may never get a chance to remind myself. Just having said that, I have to pick my kid up In-N-Out burger. So don't let me forget that tonight on the way home. But that's kind of the thing I'm most concerned about, is I feel like it's not part of that invoice presentation with that linkage. But that's how I view it.
But there's also no acknowledgement. So what you're saying is that if the customer doesn't put in some effort to investigate the warranty, then there's no acknowledgement on his part that says that he read it. There's no acknowledgement saying that he agrees with it. And that's where I think we are going to get into trouble if we don't have some. I mean, every one of us has accepted the Apple app, whether we read the 2 pages of litigation proof stuff that there is. We all say agree, and none of us have read it because we don't want. But if by signing the invoice when they pick up the car, whether it's electronic or it's a hard signature, wet signature, there still has to be some acknowledgement that they were informed of the repair of their vehicle. Is that a given?
It is, because quite honestly, there is no requirement in our statutes or regulations that a consumer sign a document upon retrieving the vehicle upon completion of repairs.
Right.
The ARP is required to provide them an invoice. They do not have to sign that document, or they don't have to acknowledge receiving that invoice. It's presumed it will be provided to them. And when 3376 says provided with the invoice, our expectation would be of that regulation that a full and complete copy of the warranty is provided with the invoice. And whether that's digitally, Dave, I hear what you're saying. It may be quite complex, but it sounds like it needs to be another page. Whatever was on the back in the backer language needs to be turned into a separate page that's automatically attached to the invoice when you email it to them.
Totally agree.
Sounds like I have work to do on Monday or Tuesday, tomorrow.
Even though the BAR doesn't require it, but if we take it one step further and it did go to any kind of small claims litigation, which is usually your next step if the customer and the shop can't agree, if there was a warranty that was very specific and we said language like all parts are considered new unless otherwise stated as used. Now the bar requires that, but there's no acknowledgement that the customer understands that. So if we had a separate page that had a place to initial or sign, that would take the vagueness out of the bar's hands and ours and put it basically into language that someone that has to adjudicate it would find it, obvious.
So I've seen language that I hear what you're saying, Bill, and like I said, that means that, I and others have work to do tomorrow morning. But into what Dennis is saying, I've seen language that my signature acknowledge that I've accepted and read warranty and so on and so forth. I mean, from the legal standpoint that you're talking about, Dennis or Jack, is that like adequate for the purposes of all BAR and legal? I know I get that we have to have the warranty attached in some fashion, but an acknowledgement that I've received it and read it, is that necessary?
I think it is.
Okay.
I still think it's
best practice. I don't know that it's a requirement in our regulations.
It is.
It is
not.
It is not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be
best practice for sure.
About a legal standpoint, Jack?
Well, I think you're asking whether that acknowledgement that the customer has read it, right, even though it's not required by BAR, does that somehow fix the warranty issue? Is that what you're talking about now?
No.
Oh, okay. Because it doesn't. It won't fix it.
It won't. No, I agree. Yeah. No. Okay. Just what Dennis was commenting about. The understanding, right? Just because the customer got it, the Apple thing, right? Yeah, I acknowledge I read it. Well, I didn't. Yeah. Right. But I acknowledged it, and there's no way I can say I didn't acknowledge it. Right. So, I'm kind of going at that same angle.
And remember what Bill had said, he is correct. There's nothing in the Automotive Repair Act that requires the customer to sign the invoice, right? So you give it to them. They say, I've had shops say, hey, the customer won't sign it. They don't have to. I mean, they just don't. I'm not going to sign it. They don't have to. And okay. But then you have let's assume they do sign it. Okay, that you have the statement and they're cooperating. They sign it. It's not going to be a BAR issue. It's going to probably be a small claims issue, right? And you're going to be in front of a judge, and you know what the consumer is going to say. Well, yeah, I signed it, but I didn't know. I didn't read this thing. It's like reading an insurance policy. I didn't know. I trusted the shop, right? And I didn't know that all these things in the backer language I didn't understand. That sort of thing. But I think
But
it's
it
good
does
to have it. But
It becomes a legal contract, Jack, at that point. Whether
it does.
you acknowledge that you read it, you acknowledge that you signed it. And even though the BAR hasn't put any language in write it right for that specific deal, that doesn't indemnify us from any future problems either. I mean, we're here tonight to take some of the loopholes out of being in this automotive crazy business. And I think what we're trying to do is just cover our best practices. Like Rocky says, our best practices is what we should be focusing on, not necessarily the bar isn't going to be as stringent as the small claims actions are. So, I mean, I think we just need to be a little uber bar in the sense that, you know, we serve both gods. We can make the bar happy and we can make the small claims judge.
I think it's a good I think it's a best practice. There's no doubt about it. I'm just saying I'm taking it a step further. What happens in small claims court, and, you know, but you're right. All the disclaimer language that I call backer language, because it's usually traditionally been in the back, but it could be additional pages. Those are terms and conditions, and it turns into a contractual relationship and an understanding of what the expectations are. So they're very important terms, but in a practical standpoint, no one really reads them. I don't even think some of the shops read some of these things, but they're very important.
That's true.
We read them when we get a complaint about it.
That's right.
That's going to be a
That's
document.
exactly the point, Bill.
What does the warranty say? And did the consumer, because most warranties contain an obligations for the consumer as well as the shop. And we're going to look at, did each party meet their obligations per what this warranty says? And Dave, we've heard a lot of the question that you mentioned, creating a link for the consumer to click and go to and get to the warranty at any time. My concern with that is, quite honestly, what if the link breaks? What if it changes? It's not a memorialized document that's provided at the time of invoice. Now it could actually be a living document that's subject to change after the transaction, because that's just the nature of stuff that's on the web. So, and a link. So I would strongly question and be very concerned with that use of a method of providing warranty.
Yeah, that's good. That so like, you know, here's our first big gem takeaway here, right? Because I know that, you know, I'm not the first one or the last one to think of it. So and it was actually one of our members that posed that particular question. So I don't want to spend the whole time on warranty, but one additional you know, thought on the warranty. So we have our standard warranty, right? Of you know, years, months, or, you know, well, in my case, months or mileage, right? You know, 3 or 36, whichever comes first, clearly stated. Sometimes, like if we were going to get a used engine to put into a car, you know, I don't want to talk about good or bad with that, right? But if we take a used engine, we put it in a car, and, you know, the warranty that comes from from my supplier is, you know, no labor, 12-month warranty, no mileage, right? You know, kind of switching to a disclaimer, can I, and would it be okay to say, hey, you know, here's my regular warranty, but because we've agreed to use this particular part that is no way I can warranty for what my warranty says, here is the warranty for this job. And, you know, so whatever it is, right? Manufacturer says, you know, 12-month warranty. And that's the only warranty that we as a repair shop are providing to you, the customer, as a disclaimer, right? We have an initial, let's sign it, whatever, make sure that they actually read it and understand it. Is that cool from, you know, from all three panelists' point of view?
I would say in the disclaimer, David, that I would say that our warranty is 36 months or 36,000 miles, unless, you know, specified differently. In other words, when you put a used engine in on your repair order that you actually charge the used engine, you could put 12 months parts only labor. And then when they sign the invoice, the repair order, then that would cover your butt there. Where we get into issues is when the manufacturers are not indemnifying us of a 3-year 36. So then we end up having this vagueness. So the motor takes a dump at 2 years, and the guy takes you to small claims court, and the judge says, well, your warranty says it's 36 months or 36,000 miles. Is this not covered under the warranty? And it's very specific when you start talking about, specified warranties. So, and then there's implied warranty where you say, well, it's a used engine. I didn't give him the same warranty. Well, that's kind of an implied warranty by you, but not implied by the customer. So then you run into that interpretation issue. The bar does require us to state if the parts are new or used. So if we had some way of just putting, anytime we put a used part on a work order, we maybe spell out the warranty right there on the description of the part. I think that would be really easy to solve that problem.
So let me just say first, there is no law under the Automotive Repair Act that requires you to provide a warranty. You don't have to provide a warranty at all. But let's face it, most shops, a majority of them do provide a warranty. And in your case, Dave, you mentioned the 3 years, 36,000 miles warranty. And if you end up installing a used engine transmission and you want to provide a 90-day warranty, you can do that. But there's certain things that I would recommend you do. First, I would cross out or X or get rid of that 3, because that's confusing, right? And then you start off with a new warranty, basically, right? This is a 90-day warranty or 1-year warranty, whatever it is, but you still have to meet the requirements of, we've been citing 3376, right? The duration, what manner in which the guarantor will have to perform, and there's requirements you still have to meet, the technical requirements. But yes, you could accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
I think that would even be easier with using a separate document that's attached to the invoice, because you could choose not to attach your regular warranty and then just write in something different.
The only caveat to that, Bill, would be if you had new parts and used parts on the same invoice, and then you've got a 36-month, 36,000 mile on the new parts and a 90-day warranty on the used part. So pretty soon it's going to look like Apple's scroll down, and it's going to be,
Yes.
Let me get my car repair attorney to read this first, So
right, because the new water pump you put on that engine
is going to have a bigger warranty.
It is going to have a 336 warranty.
Right.
And
that's the only problem with having either or.
It's going to have a 12-month warranty. So.
Right.
Well,
so
what?
Oh, go ahead, Rocky.
Sorry.
Go
What
ahead,
if we see on, for example, I use TechMetric, and on TechMetric, every job is a box. Okay, every job's a box. So what if you write on that box that this is note, this job has only 12 months, 12,000 miles warranty, and then put an initial in there and have them initial that item. For example, I had one today that came in. The lady comes in and she says, I want to replace the air mass sensor on my Mini. How much? I said, well, so you don't want me, if the check engine light comes back on, if anything happens to the vehicle, you're not interested, right? She goes, no, I just want that replaced. I said, okay. So when I gave her an estimate, on the estimate, I actually said in that box that the lady, that the customer states that she requires the air mass sensor to be replaced without any kind of and the shop has no there's no liability in the shop as far as anything else happening. I literally put those on top of that box at the bottom of that box, so they know exactly what's happening. So there's no question about this. Is that acceptable?
Yes, and recommended. I think as you were telling that story, I was thinking that's where a lot of our warranty complaints is consumer provided parts. They buy a part, they bring it to you, and then something fails, and they want you to warranty it, and it's like, well, no. What purchasing consumer request. So I think Dave's warranty, before I forget, would work with the backer language, and then just unless exclusions are specifically noted on the invoice.
With
Yeah.
Bill, with what I was trying to say wasn't that we don't accept customer parts supplied, but they just wanted us to replace that unit. There was no
Diagnosis, right.
yes, that's what I meant. As far as parts are concerned, yes, absolutely correct.
Oh, we get it so often. They bring in their part and there's other extraneous problems that actually cause the part to fail. You know, it's like they have a bad tie rod. They want you to put one tire on it, and they bring their own used tire in and then blame you when it wears out too soon because of the bad tie rod.
So
Bill, here's the other issue with that, and we've seen it before, where the bar has found us not guilty of any problem putting on the customer part, but then if it gets to a court issue, the judge will say, well, you're the expert and you should have inspected that customer's part before you installed it, because you're considered the expert. So that's why best practice is to not install anybody's parts other than what we install. That way we can cover both parts and labor. That can be in the disclaimer also, but that's just best practice for anybody.
Yep. Very good. Yep.
So and thanks Dennis and Bill for that, because right, two agencies, as it were, doing it differently, right? So from BAR's point of view, as long as the documentation is correct, customer supplied parts are cool, right? From the judge's point of view, not such a good idea, right? You're going to lose. So good. Okay, good. So that's great. So I think like the original question that came up on Team Talk surrounding disclaimers is, we'll see this at times where a vehicle is brought to the shop. Generally, it's driven in. And then let's see, this in this particular case was specifically surrounding brakes and brake inspection documentation. No problem with documentation, signatures, all that kind of stuff. But the shop determined that. And we don't use the word unsafe, but in the shop's opinion, this car was unsafe, right? Metal to metal brakes, leaking brake fluid, all kinds of problems with this braking system. And the customer declined repairs and said, I'm going to come get the car and I'm driving it home, right? So our concern has always been, okay, I know I can't keep the car as long as the customer pays me for the agreed upon work, which wasn't an issue. I can't prevent them from taking their car. I think it's a resoundingly bad idea because, you're going to be the first one at the scene of the crash. So how do I protect myself? And historically we've said, hey, here's what we did. Here's what we found. We're recommending you do not ever drive this car until these repairs are done, either by us or somebody else. Tow it home. We'll tow it home. Whatever. I mean, I'm shortening it up, but what am I opening myself up for there, right? And is that relieving my reliability? Am I comfortable with that? Am I on the hook no matter what? If it results in a claim with BAR, I mean, I think I already know the answer, but I'll let you guys answer it. But what does BAR look at that with the customer complaint that, hey, they didn't fix my brakes, or my brakes are still a problem, or they told me I shouldn't drive my car and I'm mad about that. So so go from there.
I get this question more than
I know you do.
Should.
you just got it when this came up.
And really, once you start touching the car, it's like, oh my God, you see this and it's a bad tire. You see, or it's really an unsafe condition. There's wire coming out of the radio, the tires, and I've had shops say, hey, I don't want to touch this thing. How do I go ahead and relieve myself from liability? Some shops will document it obviously on the paperwork and actually tell the customer, and I've had shops tow it to their home. You can't drive it. This is serious, right? They'll tow it. And other customers say, no, I want to drive it off. And you can here's the issue. Really, because you can mitigate against the individual customer, right? You say, hey, you have them sign a release of all liability. The problem is that if their spouse or a third party is driving the car, you haven't released anything with them, right? Or if they subsequently sell the car, then you got a third party and they're involved in an accident, right? It'll come back to you. I mean, you're going to be involved in a lawsuit, guaranteed. If someone gets seriously hurt or killed, And what I suggest is make sure you have good insurance to cover you in that kind of situation, because there is maybe you have a direct relationship with the customer and you can relieve yourself from some liability. But when it comes to third parties or them getting involved in an accident with a third party, you're not relieved from that potential liability. You will end up being brought into the lawsuit.
Yeah, so this is where digital vehicle inspection is very important, because we take pictures of everything, we document everything, and then we know when we send it to the client, we know when the client opens up and actually reads it, because we have everything gets documented. Even their reading gets opening up the email gets documented, or text that we send. So those are all evidence that the customer, the client, has seen this issue on this vehicle. It's not like they don't know about it. So that kind of, Dennis, wouldn't you say that's a great thing that it happens on these things?
Yeah, a lot of times, if I have a car that comes in, a lot of times on German cars, the inside of the tire will wear out. The customer never sees it, and you have to stand on your head to see it. So what we do is, we see a tire that's unsafe, we're doing a service or we're doing whatever we're doing, we'll take a picture of the tire and send it to the customer. And then the customer usually will either come down to the shop to inspect it himself, or he'll say, "Oh my God, I didn't realize," and we go on from there. But that's not, I don't see it as a big legal issue unless there's a lawsuit involved with some personal injury. We are indemnified by our garage keepers, but I have had, I do expert testimony for car cases across the country, and I have been involved where a car just left a shop that had absolutely nothing to do with causing the accident. But Jack is right. They'll name you and they'll drag you in there just because they're gonna get as many defendants as they can in just about any pocket they can get into. So
that's one of the long-standing complexities of this industry, or puzzles, or Rubik's cubes of this industry, is the car that, in our expert opinion, as we talked about with the parts, is unsafe to drive, and you can't hold it hostage, force them to buy. That is, we would frown upon that, and that's not consistent with our regulations. So the best you can do, and I remember when I was in industry 20 years ago, I had one come in and, the braking surface was separated from the hat on the rotor because they had worn it out so bad, and they declined repairs. We just documented, had them initialed. Rotor is in a condition that may cause the brakes to fail under braking, and recommend the vehicle be towed. They declined and they left, and never heard anything. But yeah, it's a long-standing challenge in this industry, and all you can do is document. And offering to tow it to their house is a great step, but obviously we wouldn't tow. We can't require industry to incur that expense.
Hey, Bill, let me ask you a question about that. Is there a problem with us using the language of brakes unsafe?
I don't think I tried to avoid using unsafe. I said the rotor has, document the condition. The brake rotor has, its braking surface is separated from the hat, the mounting surface of the rotor.
No, I get that, but is there a reason why we can't use the word unsafe? We are experts in our industry, and if
you're going to get challenged on it, but yeah, I think you could. I'm not the legal expert there.
Yeah, I would encourage it. I would write as much as you can in there, right? To make sure that if a judge reads this and say, any normal person say, "What the hell were you doing driving this thing?" Right? It's unsafe.
Would be that just the brakes are unsafe. Recommend not to drive. Okay, why are they? We're going to look at why are they unsafe.
No, I get that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
What I was alluding to.
What I do is I have a stamp, big red letters that says brakes unsafe. It goes on the copy. There's a place for them to initial it. But in my prose, in my story, I say, rotors are coming apart. Brake pads are worn beyond minimum. Vehicles unsafe to drive. But then I put this big red stamp on their invoice, and I have them. I had a guy get really mad at me because he knew his wife was going to see the invoice when he got home. and it was her car. And she's
Right. I don't want to spend money on my wife's car.
yeah, she called me the next day and she said, I saw your invoice. I saw it said brakes unsafe. Why didn't my husband do the brake job? I said, that's something you have to ask him.
Maybe you want to talk. Maybe you want to talk to his divorce lawyer.
Yeah, I want to speak to a
Well,
lawyer.
as a matter of fact, I asked her, I said, did your husband just take a life insurance policy on you? A ton of money? And she said, actually, he did, but that's just a coincidence. And I have been laughing with that. You know?
I think unsafe is
awesome.
fine for the consumer, but obviously the details of how you got to that conclusion are the things that we're going to be concerned about.
Right.
We're going to want to know what makes it unsafe, not just. Hey,
No, I get it. I just,
Yeah.
we said something about the language not using the word unsafe, but I don't understand why not, because we are considered
Well,
experts.
that was me, Dennis, because
Those are simple
and this
terms.
was information years ago that was put before ASCCA, and I don't know where it came from. So I'm not, my assumption was it was, legal interpretation in some fashion that, don't use the word unsafe, right? Don't use the word safety. Well, I guess I'm backwards. Actually, don't tell anybody the car is safe, right? Telling them it's unsafe is fine, but don't tell them it is safe, right? That was sorry. That was my error. Clarify that. So
Okay.
I don't want to tell somebody their car is safe and they're going to make it to vacation and then then a tire blows out and they're not safe anymore, right? So yeah, my apologies.
That's another law degree that we have to, all of us have to go through to figure out how the hell we're going to write this.
So before we run out of time, I'd like to address something with the bar, if we could. One of the things that we've all known, in the 35 years I've owned a shop, is that the customer has a right to his old parts, and we all know that. We also know the rules say by the bar that the customer has to request the parts before that repair is performed. And best practices for us is we keep the parts there until the car's picked up. But I would very much like to address that with in the write it right. It says that the customer has a right to request his parts, but there's nothing in there, Pat or Bill, that says if there's a core charge, that the customer would be on the hook for the core charge. Whether they're so it's kind of contradictory. The bar says they have a right to their old parts, but there's nothing mentioned about if there's a value to the used part as far as a core. Like an alternator might have $100 core on it,
right.
And the customer says, well, no, in Write It Right, it says that they have to ask for their parts and they have a right to their old parts, their used parts. So that's a little vague, and I'd like to maybe get some input from you two guys at the bar table.
Okay, so that's covered in CC&R Title 16, CC&R 3355. And if it requested at the time of estimate, they shall return all replaced cars. The exemption is parts and components that are replaced and sold on an exchange basis, and parts that the ARD is required to return under warranty. So if a part specified in subsection B, and there will be a charge for the replacement part, the ARD shall offer to show the customer the replaced part, and then it says you will show it to them and document it. Very quick overview. It does not say in there that there's an option for the customer to pay the core charge and still keep the part. It covers everything but that. It stops just short of it. So that's something, we have a reg package. The teardown disclosure regs are in this section. We might be able to just put that in there, that the customer can choose to pay the core charge and still take the part.
Don't you think we should take that little loophole out of there?
I think it should be an option for the consumers.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah. Some cores are pretty expensive, so they wouldn't want to do it.
Battery is a very good example of it because, I just changed my battery 6 months ago. It's dead. So I want you to replace the battery, but then I'm going to take it and get my other battery warranted. So I lose a core if I don't keep that battery. So you understand? So it's a very common problem.
Yes.
Yeah, we see it with the alternators also, where a customer went to, AutoZone, got an alternator. It's not working. They come to us. They want us to diagnose the electrical problem. We see this, it's got a bad alternator. They want their alternator so they can take it back to AutoZone, and we got a $75 to $100 core charge on it. But it doesn't spell out that there may be a charge. That's the only language I'd like to add to that.
Okay.
That's great, Dennis. Thanks for more work for the advisor group, Dennis. Thank you. No, kidding. That's a great idea. Because we've all run into it at our shops, batteries specifically, because that's they buy the cheap battery, it fails, and then they want to go to exchange it. And I've always, and fortunately it's never been an issue, right? I've always said, well, that's cool, but there's a $12 core on this battery, so I'm going to charge you $12, and if you bring me back your old battery, then I'll give you $12 back, right? But yeah, if we can avoid that argument, right, from the legal standpoint or the regulation standpoint, all the better.
So
it's always been a given in the industry. When I was in industry, if the customer wanted to pay for it, if they said, well, I want to take that with me, fine, pay me the $75 core charge. And they would have to then get that from the AutoZone for the example here.
Yeah.
And I say it's easy to add it to an existing rate package, but Dennis, I don't know if you've joined us on any of our workshops for regulations, but you've probably just added 2 hours of discussion into our.
Well, just remember, guys, we started with 10 commandments, and look.
So this one seems pretty straightforward, I would think, but I won't.
Hey, Bill, we only got a few more minutes. I wanted to get this thing in where I wanted to find out if BAR can share the amount of what the disclaimer and warranty complaints that they're getting from the consumer and what they are, so we can maybe try to figure out what we really need to concentrate on if you have that information.
In the last reported stats as of March 31st, fiscal year 23-24 to date, so through March 31st, that's 9 months, we had 100 complaints related to repair warranty. The nature of those complaints, I couldn't tell you from the stat sheet. It doesn't report that. I do know a lot of it is customer requested repairs and customer supplied parts, where they came in and requested a specific repair, and the ARD may or may not have failed to properly document that the extent of the warranty based upon the circumstances. And again, I can't speak much more than that without looking at some of them. I do know we have one complaint right now. That's actually probably going to be the next coffee with Bill, where the shop checked out, diagnosed front end suspension noise, replaced some ball joints, but not all, and then the vehicle rolled over. And that one's in civil court right now. There were some documentation problems there. So.
Bill, you guys used to have a newsletter with smog complaints or the ARD. Well, I'm not getting it anymore.
Online.
What's that?
It's online. It's electronic on our website.
But you're not sharing it to emails, right?
We should.
We should. If you're on our interested parties email list.
I'll make sure you're added.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe this should also be part of that document if you think that it's going to help. It's the intent is to figure out how we can get information where it keeps everybody out of trouble, and that's the intent. I think you guys are the same realm we are, and it's in order to lessen that 100 complaints to half of, whatever, to as much as possible. I think if you convey what the problems are, maybe we can figure it out.
Can I make a suggestion, just because since BR is here and we're listening? One of the comments that Dennis had was let's clarify that regulation, and that takes a lot of time and effort. That is a process, but what the BR could do, if they're open to it, because I know they've done this, is just provide some guidance, questions and answers, like they've done in the past with regard to credit card fees, right? And these things can get done a lot quicker. We don't need to wait years for regulations, especially if they're tied into controversial projects. So if we can, if the BR would be open on some of this stuff, whether it's at a BR advisory committee or part of their newsletter, I think Pat and Bill, this, instead of just every time you have an issue, you got to do a regulation. To me, that's just a lot of work, and it's just a long process. We know what the answer is going to be. It just because you kind of laid it out here, Bill, if we can tie it into like a question and answer, frequently asked questions or something like that, because I know BAR and their attorneys are always sensitive because they don't want to have an underground regulation. And I get that, but a lot of agencies and departments will do that sort of thing, provide some guidance, and they've done it in the past. So maybe that's a way to handle some of these questions you get. Just a thought.
No, thank you
Gloria
for
or
the,
Lee, did you guys-
thank you for the suggestion. We'll take it up with our newsletter team.
Fantastic, fantastic. Do we have any other questions and comments?
So if Lee or Gloria from their perspective
Okay,
had any thoughts or issues that.
and then Dennis, you all good?
I'm good. I think these are the kinds of things that we can keep some of our members out of trouble just by making them aware of the ramifications of their actions. And the better story they tell, I imagine from the bar standpoint, if they go out on a complaint and everything is pretty spelled out on that invoice, it's going to be a lot easier for them to not assume that the customer meant this or the shop meant this or whatever. So, assumptions get us in deep trouble. And I think that's what these kinds of comments are helpful to do.
Perfect. Yeah. Jack, do you have anything to add anymore?
No, I think this is always good. Getting, information guidance, what I call guidance. It helps educate the members and the industry. So this is always good communication. And I think it's a really good benefit for the association, and we need to continue to do these kinds of things.
It's benefit for the Bureau of Automotive Repair also. It's there, so it's all about getting better at what both of our entities doing. So Pat, do you have anything going on or anything that you want to add?
No, thank you for putting this together, Rocky. I'm really appreciative of an opportunity to do this is kind of new for us, this webinar panel type discussion. Usually we go out on the road to speak to chapters, but this was very very good use of our time, and I think it was very fruitful for all of us to be able to shed some light on this issue. We kind of sometimes take for granted we don't get complaints. Everything's going fine with respect to certain issues relating to the Automotive Repair Act, and this sounds like an issue that was causing some anxiety. Maybe too strong a word, but maybe some concerns, and wanted to make sure that you were, as Dave said, wanted to make sure that he was doing it in compliance with the laws, and I think we've kind of addressed that, and I hope that was helpful for everyone.
Yeah, as an association, we take comments in our forums very seriously, and we want to figure out if that comment is going to help the masses. And this is exactly what one of those comments was about. So that's kind of pushed us to put it together. Bill, do you have anything else to add to this, my friend?
I want to echo what Pat said. It was great. I have a mantra that I tell my staff. I talk about, sorry, Pat, the Pareto principle, where 95% of our business is generated by 5% of our licensees. And you guys are part of the 95%, not part of the 5%. And these are the kind of meetings I encourage for my staff. Any opportunity we get, let's sit down with the 95% so that we keep them out of that 5% that we have to spend most of our resources on. So these are great meetings.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody that attended this meeting, especially our friends from Bureau of Automotive Repair. We consider ourselves to be part of the solution for both entities. So thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, one last thing. Members,
course.
please go ahead and once you watch this, if you have any questions, continue using the threads to post your questions, post your concerns, so we can come up with more answers, which works for us and for everybody else. So this is a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists, to everyone who sent in questions, and thank you again for watching. I hope we've provided helpful information for updating your disclaimers. For more information on this topic, including an advisory disclaimer checklist, please log into your ASCCA member portal and go to the Resources menu tab. If you have questions or suggestions, please send them to info@ascca.com. Thank you again for watching.